today is another spicy story time. Today's story time is going to be about dating cafes in Japan. Again, this is completely anecdotal. I'm obviously not an expert in dating cafes. This is just going to be from my perspective. I actually decided to make this video because I saw a reel on Instagram and it said how to get a boyfriend in Japan while eating unlimited food. This video was made by, I'm not exactly sure who the content creator is, but they expressed that they didn't speak any Japanese at all, and so there's a lot of these content creators making content about Japan and they're coming at it with very, very fresh eyes, quite naively, and of course that way they end up spreading misinformation. I don't mind too much because a lot of it is really, really cute, like look at this Pikachu vending machine, but then a lot of the times they kind of capitalize on the fact that Japan is so crazy and weird, blah 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 blah, and it does send kind of a false image of what Japan really is when you only focus on kind of like the zany robot serving you food and stuff like that instead of other things. And I think people come to Japan with an image that Japan is one way but it's actually another way. Again, that kind of content gets popular because it's what does well in the algorithm, so you can't blame people for making kind of content that sells. The only problem is I have with this video is that the way this is sold could potentially be dangerous. There are a lot of dating or day cafes in Japan, and there are different levels, there are different vibes, but often the people that go there just go to hook up or solicit someone for sex work, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. And I don't think that the woman who made the video was kind of aware that's the cafe she went to. People do not use it to find a boyfriend. Most of the time they use it to solicit customers for sex work. And again, this is something that's hard to explain, but the kind of attitude to sex work is very, very different in Japan. Like papakatsu, like having a sugar daddy, is honestly quite a normal thing. Like most girls in university do at some point do papakatsu, and it's not seen as a particularly bad thing. And the thing is, when we hear the word sugar daddy, we see the sugar part and we think that this is you automatically assume that there's going to be exchange of sex acts involved. But a lot of women that do papakatsu in Japan, it's often not sexual. It would just be like letting a man take pictures of you outside, having dinner with them, spending time with them, stuff like that. And then of course there are a lot of people who do engage in sex acts too. I'm not going to show the reel here, but it just centers around a girl being like, wow, this is amazing, we can eat for free and we can meet boyfriends, and then they go to the cafe and then mostly it's just them eating. And the part that made me kind of laugh is like, she's like, wow, the food here is so great, if I could speak Japanese I would come here every day. And then they zoom in on the food and it's just like pocky, like fried food, like microwave pasta and stuff like that. It's like, girl, come on. And then they sat there for a while, and then at the end they were placed with some men. And then here's the thing that gets me, is that in the video she says that they were talking to the men and they were really nice, but then at the end they found out that the men gave false names and they were actually all married with kids. What part of that made her think, this is a great place for me to find a boyfriend? And when you read the comments for this reel, it was a lot of younger women like, oh wow, I want to go to Japan and do this, my time has come, I can get a boyfriend and eat free food. And I feel like maybe irresponsibly that she's sold this image of like, this is a really safe place to find a boyfriend, when actually most people who use the service don't really use it like that. Again, it's kind of like how Tinder and dating apps, often the concept is that you can find a relationship, but then actually it's just mostly people use it for hookups. I feel like it's kind of like that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with sex work. And I do have a lot of friends who are or were escorts or sex workers, and I don't have any problem with that. And often they would go to these kind of day cafes and that's how they would pick up clients. I think that that's totally fine. What's not fine is maybe going to one of those places and maybe getting solicited for sex without realizing, or going to them without realizing the risks. This is my only problem with this. Again, no issue with sex work. it's a little bit worrying when naive girls, particularly ones who might not know Japanese, go to these places and then something not wholesome happens to them. That's just my only worry. So yeah, I want to share my experiences of going to those places. I think I've been like twice, and I almost went a third time, and I've just never been a fan of them. And of course, the first time I heard about them, someone said to me, we should go to this restaurant cafe, it's only down the road and we can eat for free, like women can eat for free. And I was like, okay, that's sus. Like immediately, if anything's for free, there's a catch. And then my friend was like, oh no, it's fine, like literally we can just eat for free. It's just like a place where sometimes men go to find like girlfriends or wives, so women can eat for free, so it's not really a big deal. And immediately I was like, but you know, I like to do like dumb shit, and like if there's a place like this, generally I was just interested. I'm like, I wonder what the vibe is. Is it gonna be creepy or is it gonna be normal? We'll see. I also didn't like the fact that my friend at the time kind of sold it as like this wholesome experience, and it ended up not being so wholesome. That's something that I think is unforgivable. Again, no problem with sex work, but I don't think that you should kind of like misrepresent it as something that it's not. So yeah, this one that we went to, because I know of two, there are tons of these cafes, but I know of two, and the first one I went to was very, very friggin' sussy. Like, you have to find like a catch on the street, and then he'll take you down the road and he'll take you there. And there's a sign outside that says like, women free, men pay money. And this isn't something that is uncommon in Japan. I think someone actually commented on my maid cafe video and said, why do men have to pay more? And that's just because in general men do want to meet women, and so often it's harder to get women to go to these kind of establishments. They want to get more women to go, and obviously if there's more women there, it's kind of like a more balanced and more happy environment. So yeah, we went to this dating cafe, and on the way there I was like trying to just figure out what it was, and my friend really played it down. She was like, oh, it's just like we'll sit down and we can order whatever food we want, we can charge our phones, and then if a man wants to speak to you, he has to write your name down or like your number down, and then you're allowed to decline. So if you don't want to speak to them, you can decline, it's totally fine. And I was like, well, if I don't have to speak with a man or be put with a man, then honestly I don't mind it that much. So we went there, and it was not what I was expecting. I think because like a lot of these places look semi-normal, like it's just like normal tables and chairs, but this one was like one side of the establishment had tables and chairs, and the other had kind of like a long desk with paper and pens. It kind of looked like a panel of judges, and those chairs are pointing towards the table and chairs. So the girls sit at the table and chairs and like talk with their friends or whatever, charge their phones and eat, and the men face towards them and watch them. And when a man wants to talk to a girl, he writes down the number, because every table has a number. So immediately I was like, I don't really want to, but my friend insisted she wanted to charge her phone, so that we should go sit down. So when we arrived, there wasn't any men there. We sat down, again, looked at the menu. It was the same kind of stuff that I saw in the video. It was just like mostly fried food or microwave pasta. So I think I didn't even order anything. I just got like a drink, and I sat down and just took in the environment, because again, I'm just a very curious person. I was very curious about what exactly goes on in these kind of cafes. And then my friend said, don't worry, like normally men won't request you anyways. There were two other girls there. I don't want to like judge people, but they did look like sex workers, and they were like, looked quite depressed. They were there both charging their phones. They just looked like typical sex workers that you would find in Shinjuku, and there's quite a lot. It's not a big deal, it's a job. And then we had only been there like 5 minutes, and a man requested me. Just me, not my friend. So I'm like, you said that I wouldn't be requested. And she's like, oh yeah, like it happens just and I was like, okay, I'll just say that I don't want to speak to him. And she was like, if you say that, they'll try and pressure us to leave. Like this, if you say no too many times, the staff kind of pressure you to leave. I'm like, okay, that's not good. That's already, I feel like I'm being pressured, I'm being coerced. She was like, just go speak to him. I'm like, okay. So I thought that you would just go over to the other side and speak to them. No. they lead you to like a discussion area, and it's around the corner where no one can see you, and there's like booths where you would discuss. So as you can imagine, men would go there and they would just discuss how much they would pay for the girl for like dinner or for like something else, I don't know. So yeah, I had to sit at this booth. Luckily you sit opposite each other, and it was like an old man, like 60, and he was like, oh hi, and I was like, honestly, I'm just here with my friend to talk to my phone. He's like, oh okay, do you want to go out for dinner? He's like, I'll take you out sometime. Are you looking for work? Like blah blah blah, trying to feel if like I was a sex worker or not, and I kind of shut him down. And then yeah, that was it. He kind of figured out that I wasn't into whatever it was that was gonna happen, and he got kind of pissed off, and then he was like, okay, well I'm gonna leave, and then he left. And then the staff seemed kind of annoyed at me that I didn't leave with this guy, and I went and sat down again. I was like, okay, let's stay for like 5 more minutes and then leave. I'll finish my drink and leave because I don't like this place. And again, my friend was like, I'm charging my phone. So we stayed for a couple more minutes, and a man came in, like an older man came in with a young guy. So the guy who was older was probably like 48, I would estimate, and the younger guy was like 23, 24. And obviously it's like a senpai kohai situation where older men take their kohai out and just like show them around and try to brag about how much money they have. So yeah, they came in, immediately requested us, and I'm already mad. I'm like, you said that we would just be left alone, and now I'm having to speak to people. I do not like speaking with random men. I was just already annoyed, so I was like, can we just decline? She's like, no, because like we didn't eat yet at the restaurant, because honestly I didn't trust any of the food. She's like, but we might be able to get them to pay for our dinner. And I'm like, I've had a few friends before that tried to, because it's not hard in Shinjuku, like that's the vibe. Like there are a lot of men who are lonely, and they go there and they'll just buy cute girls dinner. This is a thing. It's not even considered sex work really, it's just a thing that happens. Not my vibe, because remember this was a long time ago, but it's just never been my vibe. Like I've always had a job, so I can always buy my own dinner, and I would much rather eat Wendy's by myself or with my friend than eat Wagyu beef with some old boring old man. And I was getting really pissed off at this point, but my friend's like, no, like please, like we'll get 5,000 yen for our trouble probably. And I'm like, honestly 5,000 yen isn't that much, but okay, whatever. I just wanted the night to be over, so we went to the discussion area. I sat there in silence and just listened to her talk to the old man. The younger guy sat there in silence. He didn't want to be there. You could tell it's his boss. He didn't have any say in the matter either. So then my friend was like, okay, well, I want to eat sushi, so please take us out for expensive sushi and then give us 5,000 yen. And the old guy was like, okay. So we left. Thank fucking God we left that place, and we went to like a nearby semi-expensive sushi place. The old guy bought us all sushi and we ate sushi. And luckily, my friend spoke to the older guy and I was stuck with the younger guy. Me and the younger guy didn't really talk that much. I was like, you really don't want to be here, do you? He's like, honestly, no. And I was like, cool, me too. So we just mostly ate our sushi in silence, which was nice. Then we ate sushi, we walked towards the station, and the older man tried to back out of giving my friend the money that he promised. And I was like, honestly, just leave it. But she kept pressuring him, and I think he gave us like 8,000 yen, so we would have 4,000 yen each. So he undercut us anyways, and then he left. And she's like, yeah, okay, well, it didn't work out that well, but we still got 4,000 yen each. I was like, all that effort, was it really worth it? Like I can earn 4,000 yen an hour at my job just teaching. Like why would I want to go through all this effort, stress, and danger? I don't know these people. We don't know where they're gonna take us. It's just stupidity. But again, that was kind of like another source of income for my friend, so this is just her regular life for her. But again, I don't think that you should rope random people into it, because honestly it's not my vibe. Then after that, I saw a lot of those cafes around, and you see the kind of people that go in there and they're not looking for boyfriends or girlfriends or wives or anything like that. It is probably 80% people soliciting people for a dinner or sex. Like that's just how it is. and there's one more that a couple of my friends wanted us to go to. This one was actually a better vibe, it seems like. I didn't go inside, I ended up leaving early, but again, anything where men are paying to meet women is gonna be weird. Like, it's gonna be a weird crowd. And I know friends that have gone to these places often. Never once have they got a boyfriend from any of these places, because again, it's just not the vibe. And like in the end of the video, all the men give fake names, and oftentimes they are in relationships or they are married. Again, if you have any experiences going to these date cafes, let me know. If my perception of them is wrong, please let me know. This is completely anecdotal for me. But when I saw that reel, I just saw, I don't know, something about it bugged me. Mostly because the person who was making it didn't really know anything about the place that they were going to. And teaching people about it without possibly understanding the entire culture or like maybe the undercurrents of what they were doing. And then seeing a lot of younger women say that they wanted to try it too made me a little bit nervous. Because although I don't think you're necessarily at risk of being like sex trafficked or anything like that, there's a lot of coercion in this kind of industry, and oftentimes they will try to pressure women into doing sex work or filming videos and stuff like that. So you just have to be very, very aware, but also realize that the mindset towards sex work is very different in Japan than it is necessarily to the West. Because even the West, like, depending on different countries, their view of sex work is very, very different. So you have to acknowledge that when you come to Asia, of course, people's idea of what sex work is going to be very, very different. And again, I don't have any issue if like you are fully aware of what these cafes are and what goes on there and you still want to go. That's totally cool. I just want people to be aware of what they're getting into before they get into it, because honestly, when I first went, I didn't really know what it was, and I felt kind of cheated when I went there. Honestly, it made me feel really, really icky and gross. I honestly just felt dirty afterwards. It just was not a good environment, and the kind of men that went there were kind of gross. I never want to be in those kind of environments, and I don't want to be seen in those kind of places. And like, this is why the whole time I've been in Japan, I've had legitimate jobs, like, so I don't have to do stuff like that because I don't want to. So yeah, if you ever get invited to somewhere where it's like women can go for free, just make sure you know exactly where you're going, because there are a lot of bars and events and kind of things in Japan where women do go for free. And honestly, it's a nice vibe and it's not dangerous. It's just that they want obviously more female customers than men. And I notice a lot of language meetups are like this because it ends up just being loads of men. But other times it can have a little bit more seedy undertones, so it's just good to know what you're getting into before you go. So I always recommend doing a little Google search before you go to places like that. And again, about the reel, I think that the person was just really incredibly naive and they were really excited and they wanted to share an experience that they had, but they just possibly didn't understand what it was that they were experiencing. And I think they did sell it in kind of a dangerous way, like saying, oh, you can get a boyfriend at these places, when normally that's not what happens. And I think that when you're making content like that, it's normally sent to like impressionable young people, so you have to be really, really, really careful that you don't send them the wrong image of something, or you don't possibly send them down the wrong path, however inadvertently. So yeah, let me know what you think about this story. Sorry, it was just like purely anecdotal. Let me know as well how you feel about the reel. I haven't posted it, but you could kind of get the gist from what I was saying. Thank you for watching, and as always, please subscribe.